Hello, students of 5400. This is Glenn Borthesel, and we are going to go through the course introduction together. This is a little bit of an unusual way to start, but I have been also asked to teach the orientation course to the first year teacher candidates. So I'm not available during our regular class time, so this will be the way that we'll get class started this year. Or for this term, and I will look forward to meeting you next week. I always like to start off my classes with an Indigenous land acknowledgement. I will read it here, and I will be asking you, or some of you, to read this or similar acknowledgements in future classes. So, the campuses of Thompson Rivers University are located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Secwepemc Nation within Secwepemc. As we share knowledge, teaching, learning, and research within this university, we recognize that this territory has always been a place of teaching, learning, and research. We respectfully acknowledge the Secwepemc, the peoples who have lived here for thousands of years and who today are a nation of 17 bands. We acknowledge Te Kamloops, Te Secwepemc, and we acknowledge the many Indigenous peoples from across this land. If you want to practice your pronunciation of the Secwepemc terms, you can click on, there's a link here on the slide which will be posted for you on the middle page, so you can practice your pronunciation. It's a good thing to learn what to do. So, as I've said, today we are going to be doing a course introduction and going over some of the information on the course outline. And then I will be I will be introducing the basic leadership framework that we will be using for the course, called the 4 Frames by Boldman and Deal. And we will spend some time, and I will describe how you can get ready for next class. I will be looking off to the side just to check my recording screen to make sure that everything's working. So, a little bit about me. I have had some of you in classes before, and for others of you this will be new, so I apologize if you've heard this spiel. I do try to change it up a little bit. There's some pictures of me throughout some various stages of my educational career. It's up in the upper left-hand corner. Obviously, that's me as a young kindergarten or grade 1 student, eager to go to school, like most young children are. Worked my way, or I started off teaching in the Surrey School District on the coast, and then worked my way up to be a vice principal and then principal in the neighboring school district, School District 83, North Okanagan, Shuswap. And worked there for many years, became the Director of Human Resources and Superintendent. Worked in the district for 23 years. And enjoyed my time there, and appreciated the opportunity to work with the parents and students and teachers of that district. From there, I went and worked in China for 3 years. I was principal of an international school. If you're from China, you may know the system, the Maple Leaf Educational System. It's an BC offshore system, so BC curriculum is taught to Chinese students, mostly Chinese students, who are working on a BC Dogwood credential, high school diploma, just like students here in BC get. Enjoyed my time there. It was a great cultural and learning and educational experience. I have done some traveling around the world. This is me and my daughter outside of the Taj Mahal in India. So if you're from India, I have ridden on the trains, first class sleeper car and even second class sleeper car as well. And yeah, I had a great experience there. It was a school district field trip, actually, so I was accompanying the leader of the trip and traveled on trains all across India. It was a great experience. My schooling, I went to Western Washington University in Bellingham, Washington for my undergrad and my master's degree. And I am a current student at the University of Alberta working on my doctorate. I'm a PhD student. Been spent 2 years in Edmonton. I've been working on my PhD ever since. Moved to Kamloops and have enjoyed living here. This is now my fourth year, or just coming up on my fourth year in Kamloops and at TRU, and it's been a great experience here. And as you can see, this picture at the bottom, that's a major feature of my life right now, is my 6 grandchildren. Pretty amazing that we have that many. So I don't feel that old, but it's great to be a grandparent. Some things that I believe about education. That little T-shirt that you see on the side of the screen, being a principal is easy. It's like riding a bike, except the bike is on fire, you're on fire, and everything is on fire. That's how principals feel during the course of the day. It's a great job. I will always argue being a school principal is the best job in the world. And so I'll be speaking to you from that experience and also other leadership experiences that I've had. But it's a great job, but it comes with its difficulties, right? It does seem on some days that everything is on fire and you're trying to lead a school through its various challenges. I have developed some beliefs from those leadership experiences. First belief is that success must be the goal for all, and I have always been driven by the desire to see people be successful. Now, successful doesn't always mean that everybody gets an A. Success can mean different things for different students. I have been very pleased to see a student who passed his courses with a C- average get their graduation diploma. That was a huge success for that student. I realize for some of you, there's only one version of success, but I think that's part of the task of educators, is to figure out what success means for each person and teacher. Student priorities come first. So in education, there are lots of priorities. Those of you who have been in a school understand that. The principal has priorities, the parents have priorities, the Ministry of Education or the government has priorities, lots of different priorities, and you need to consider all of them, absolutely. But student priorities are the ones that you have to consider first and place the most importance on. That's a real unifying feature of education, and I think one that keeps us kind of focused on what's important when all the distractions are happening. Another one is just even doing what I'm doing now as a PhD student, and just sort of it expresses this third thing, is that everyone is a learner all the time. We never get to that place where we are feeling that we should feel that we know everything. I've learned everything there is to learn, and I'm not ready to learn anymore. We always have to be willing to learn from each other, from new kinds of experiences, and from new thinking that is out there. So those are some things that I believe. If we were in class today, we would go around the room, and I would get you to tell me your name, your most recent educational experience, any leadership activity that you have, and then a fun fact about yourselves. So instead of that, so that I can read the introductions, I'm going to have you go to the forum. I'll post one on Moodle that you can do those 4 activities. It doesn't have to be long. There will be a second forum activity later that will be a little bit lengthier, but really 100 words. It's just an introduction. I'm not grading it. I just want to read about who you are. Please write in there the name that you like to be called. I only see the official names on the class list. If you have a different name that you would like me to call you, please mention that. So, and I will look forward to reading those. So just those four things, really quick. Again, it's not, don't take a lot of time doing it. It's just so that we can get to know each other. Okay, some details from the course outline. So the course outline is posted on the Moodle page. You can read all of this information. I'm just going to go over it kind of quickly so that you, just so that you are informed of what the expectations will be for the course. So these are the details. We'll meet on Thursdays, 11:30 to 2:20. Please arrive on time. I recognize that you have busy lives, and you're coming from home or work, or you have long bus rides perhaps, and the buses don't work out very well. But please work on getting to class on time. It's an important skill, habit, and it just helps our class run smoothly. If you have to bring your lunch because you just don't have time to grab lunch, that's fine. You can eat it during class or wait till our break, but please work hard to get there on time. We're in room 104 on the Arts and Education building on the first floor. You can see my email. Please use my TRE email to communicate with me on most matters. I do provide my cell phone number in case it's an emergency or there's a bus delay or something and you just want to send me a text that you're on your way to class but just a little bit late. I do have an office on the first floor, AE 186, and I will have office hours just before our class. Most students I have found will make an appointment or will figure out a time to get together. There are lots of ways, obviously, to communicate, but I do want to post those hours. So I will plan to be in my office at 10:30 every Thursday morning if you want to come see me before class. So the course outline. I'm not going to read this whole thing to you because this is on the course outline. If we were in class, I would probably ask some of you to read a portion of it. So obviously a class called Educational Leadership or Principles and Processes of Leadership focuses on theory and practice, right? And so I think we want to look at various leadership theories and various ways of approaching leadership, but apply them to everyday challenges. Focusing on actual things that happen in a school, experiences that you have had in a school or a workplace, focusing on relationships and how those drive many of the outcomes of education and your leadership framework. Cultural factors, right? Showing respect for the culture that you are working in. By culture, I mean certainly the national culture of wherever you're working, but also recognizing that each school and each community has its own unique culture. So the sort of, I guess, macro and micro versions of culture. And community engagement, right? How we engage with the communities around us. When we look at education, we will look at it as an open system, and that it relates to the environment around us. So again, this description is on the course outline, right? And just that portion that I've put in bold there, how to apply theory to practice to make leadership more effective in solving everyday problems. I think that theory is important, and so as a leadership theory class, we will focus on theory. I will be asking you to read articles and to do some of your own research on an educational topic, but we want to do our best to apply it to practice, right? To real and relevant situations that are commonly experienced. No matter where you come from, I've discovered from my own experience and just hearing from other people that many of the instances, many of the challenges and leadership challenges in education are the same. I know after working for a few weeks or months in China, my observations were students are students, parents are parents, and teachers are teachers, right? Many of the problems are very common to educational settings, and so that's why the course, wherever you're going to work, whether you're going to work in a BC setting or not, I think the principles apply for me, or will apply to your context. So the course outline looks at, we've discussed some of these, so relational accountability, cultural respect, and community engagement, talked about that. We will look at research literature in educational leadership, and that's actually a very important part of the course. I will be assigning you some articles to read and some readings from the main course textbook. But you will be going out and finding some on your own as well. And so coming up with literature that's relevant and that we can pull good ideas from, but also figure out how to apply those to the situations that we encounter is important, right? And so just being aware of what the practical challenges are in education. Education, as all fields, is a unique field, right? And education has been impacted immensely by colonization. If you're in a country, or if you come from a country like Canada, that was settled by, that was colonized by the British Empire, or what we call the UK now. Your educational the education that you experience is highly influenced by that colonization, and so just what those ongoing legacies are, and as we're learning much more about in these times in Canada and in many countries around the world, how we integrate Indigenous worldviews and perspectives into our practice is very significant. And just what the idea of reconciliation means, decolonization, as we talked about, and just how we empower various communities in our work. So these are some topics: leadership styles. Okay, we'll talk about some of these specific leadership styles, those ones that are listed there. We will talk about specific leadership issues that are, again, common to leadership settings across all industries, but certainly in education. I teach courses in conflict and educational management, so I bring in some of that material as well. And just internal issues in schools, right? So how the school relates to the world around it, and how the school operates inside are two things that always need to be considered. And just what leadership capacity, leadership efficacy looks like, right? What abilities and skills and traits and attributes you should have as a leader. Lots of different theories of leadership out there, and so working our way through them is difficult. Most leadership theories now, and we will talk about this in our course, most leadership theories now focus on what are called collectivist theories. So theories that don't just talk about the trait or traits or characteristics of the individual leader, but theories that talk about the how the leader works with other people, because that is how we have discovered that our world is working more, and we live in a different world than 50 years ago, or even 30 years ago, or even 5 years ago, right? People expect more and more to be involved, and to have a say and to have a voice. And that has seriously impacted leadership for the good, I think, but it makes it more complicated when you can't just make decisions all on your own. So we will be basing the foundational work is from Bowman and Deal, two American authors. We'll be meeting them via video here in a few minutes, called Reframing Organizations. This is the 6th edition. They do have a 7th edition, but I have and you will thank me for this. I have a free link for the 6th edition, so that's what we will be using. And you can find the link on the Moodle page. I would suggest that you click on the link, download the PDF. It may ask you to create an account. It's the academia website. It will probably ask you to create an account, but you don't have to pay any money. So create an account, download the link, get the PDF for this document in a place that you can go to instantly, because you'll be reading it between classes, but we will be referring to it during classes as well. A supplementary text is from Hoy and Niskell. It's a little bit older text, and it's focused on education. Bowman and Deal is great for leadership. It doesn't it's not written specifically for education. It's a comprehensive or generalist approach. Hoy and Niskell does address education, so we will be using some chapters. It's very rich when it comes to educational application, and also the level of detail. It's a very dense book, but we will be referring to that. You can see the reading thing. It's a reading intense course. Again, this is a core course, and so learning to read is a key skill of an academic. You can expect 2 chapters from text per class, 2 supporting articles, and then a case study that we will be discussing in class. Keep up with the reading schedule. That's the most important activity in this course and for your development as an academic as you work your way toward your master's degree. Assignments. So this is the outline of assignments. Next week in class, I'll be asking you to write an in-class reaction paper. There will be a question. I'll be talking about that a little bit more toward the end. There will be a question from an article, from the Anderson article that I'll talk about later. So there will be a question from that, and there's not a right answer. It's your thoughts. This is useful to me to collect a writing sample from you, and also for you to start to organize your thoughts about what leadership looks like, and just to analyze leadership through the 4 frames. There will be a reading summary that will be. That's where you will be looking for an article on a leadership topic that you will be interested in. Assignment 2 connects to assignment 5. If in your choice of article, if you find something that's in a leadership, addresses a leadership topic in education that you are interested in, you will do further research and further writing on it in assignment 5. So pay a little bit of attention to what article you choose. I'll talk about this a lot more next week in class. Partner presentations. In the past, when I've taught this course, we've had students read an article and then make a presentation to class. There will be an activity like that. I'm still kind of reviewing how I want to organize it, so I will talk about that in class more. But that is something that you'll be doing with another person. There will be a group case study, so there'll be groups of 4 or 5, and you'll be given a case, and you'll have and you'll do an activity on that. That'll be toward the end of the course, and then the final academic paper. This will be a traditional academic paper, around 10 pages, on the topic, again, hopefully that is connected to the reading summary or the article that you picked. And then at the end there will be a self-appraisal or self-assessment that you don't give yourself a grade for, but you make some comments about your participation and performance in the class, and we do that right at the end. So if I change, those dates are what I'm sort of estimating. If we change the dates, I won't surprise you by saying it's due, earlier. I would always say that it's due later, and I would give you lots of notice about that. If you do need an extension, please contact me at least 48 hours ahead of when the date is due, or sorry, when the assignment is due. I do grant extensions, usually just based on your asking, but you need to have a conversation. Okay, don't just get in the habit of handing in assignments late without saying anything. Okay, we'll talk more about that next week. Moodle, I think if this is not your first course, for some of you this may be your first course, but it's pretty easy to figure out. I will post all the documents and links that we're going to be using on Moodle. I will post the PowerPoints after class. Usually within 48, well, no, even less, usually within 24 hours. Yeah, and I will, just check, I would check Moodle within 48 hours of the upcoming class, just to see if there's anything on there that you need to be aware of. So please make sure that you are keeping on top of that. So use of technology, Moodle, we've talked about that. Please use your TRU email address and check your TRU email. I know some of you, I think, have pointed it toward another email address that you use, which is fine. But but I want to make sure that you get those messages, because that's how I will be contacting you. We're meeting online here, so here we are. This is an asynchronous, right? Because we're not all meeting together. You're going to watch this on your own schedule. We may, if there's a need to have a synchronous class where we are meeting online all the same, we'll use Teams or some other platform. But I'll give you lots of notice about that. I do not record classes because I want you to come to class. It's too easy to just watch the recording rather than come to class. And again, I know you're busy and well-intended, but if the boss is hassling you about not showing up for work, it's easy to make the choice of work over school. And of course, we want you to choose school over work. ChatGPT. So I think we're all figuring out how to use ChatGPT. I am not a person who says never, never. However, academic integrity is the issue here. So you cannot use ChatGPT to write assignments unless I ask you to do so. Those of you who have had educational management from me know that I do actually ask people to use ChatGPT for a specific assignment. If I have suspicions or concerns that you are using ChatGPT instead of, or as a replacement for your writing, I will be talking with you about that. So this is a topic in education that we are all trying to figure out, and as I say, I'm not opposed to integrating ChatGPT, and it just needs to be done in a way that respects academic integrity. And also the weaknesses of ChatGPT. It's not always right, is it? Okay, and then, cell phone use. So please, I know it's easy these days to use your cell phone. I don't have mine with me. Normally we have it with us, of course, but please try to avoid using it during class time. I have a little candy thing that if I feel like I need to remind you about, I'll give you a candy, and if I have to do it a second time, I'll just hold your phone for the rest of the class. Okay, so please do your best to avoid that. Attendance, very important. There is a department attendance policy. Part of your participation mark will be from consistent attendance. You are expected to be at the first class and the last class. The last class, of course, is in there because I know people want to make plans to go home early, but there is an expectation that students are in class for the first and last class. There is, you are allowed, or it is permissible to miss 10%, which is one class. If you're missing more than one class, it can be difficult, so please let me know what's going on. Students will quite often ask me and write me for permission to miss the class. I don't really give permission. I say, okay, thank you for informing me. And, you know, people get sick, I get that. But I don't really give permission for you to leave. I just, you know, say, okay, thank you for letting me know, right? This is you are adults now, so this is your within your frame of reference about when or when you will be attending class or not. Grading. So this is the TRU standard grading chart. Okay, and this is the grade. This is the structure that I will follow. I always bring this to students' attention that the A plus, A, and A minus are all defined as excellent. Okay, so I know for many of you, A plus is the only version of excellent. A is an excellent mark. I'll talk with you a little bit more when we look at a rubric. I expect that everybody in this course, if you're in a master's program, is capable of getting an A. If you meet the criteria standards, right, that you will get an A. To get an A plus means you have to do something that I see as a little bit more in quality, you know, not just quantity. So in other words, adding an extra page doesn't automatically mean you're going to get to go from an A to an A plus. If you meet standards, you get an A. If you come close but don't quite meet it, you get an A minus. If you exceed standards in some way, usually your level of thinking or application, that's when you get an A plus. Okay, so I think we've created a little bit of a expectation that if you do what the, sort of meet the criteria, you're going to get an A plus. Well, actually, that means that you get an A. Getting an A plus has to be one level of thinking higher than an A plus, higher than an A. But everything is, all those are categorized as excellent. Okay. We'll talk about that when we talk about individual assignments. Student Success Center, I just always promote their work and just want to support them in what they do. It's not a sign of weakness to go and get some help from the Student Success Center. So please make sure that you are taking advantage of their services. TRU Library, very important. You will be accessing the library for your reading summary and for the final activity. So please get to know how to use the library. Erin May is the education librarian. She's a great lady. So please make sure that you are aware of that. Okay. Normally during class we would take a break because that's kind of the end of the course outline, and then I'm going to move in now to an introduction. I'm going to take a little break here myself and then come back and we'll talk about a leadership model from Bowman and Deal that we'll be following in the course. Okay, this is the cover of the textbook, the Bowman and Deal textbook that we will be using. As I said in the introduction, this is not specific to education, but it's an excellent way to look at leadership using this framework. So, Bowman and Deal are from the United States. One's from the University of Southern California. The other one is spent some years at Harvard and is currently working in Missouri. When you read leadership literature, this framework, this philosophy is very common or very, very well received, frequently used, I guess is the word that I'm looking for. Frequently used as a framework for leadership. And they start off by talking, and this is something that probably you can relate to, that organizations, there is a certain amount of what they call cluelessness in organizations. Organizations don't seem to have very good rationale for why they do things, and do things for irrational reasons. And quite often, efforts by the organization to bring about change or improvement don't seem to accomplish very much. This is a comic strip from Dilbert, which is a comic strip that was popular a few years ago. So you can read the slide. To reach our green goals, employees must always use the blue recycling bins for company documents. Okay, we all know, we're familiar with different colored bins and sorting our garbage and recycling. To satisfy corporate security, you can never put company documents in the blue recycling bins. So, saying something that's contradictory. You read those same policies to us last week. I don't know how to get rid of them. Right? So we all have looked at organizational decisions that we say, what are they thinking? What are they telling us to do? That's the way organizations seem to many folks. That they make decisions based on irrational reasons. A common reason given is for political reasons, right? To satisfy some political need. So how, in this environment where organizations seem to be clueless, how can leaders make sense and provide clarity for their followers and for organizations? So a frame is a way of looking at the world. Just give you a second just to read that quote. So the idea is that you can't just give people a map, right? Do this, do that, do this, do that, because the world is too complex and every situation is a little bit different. So you need to come up, a frame is a way of making sense of what's going on and helping you categorize issues or analyze issues so that you can first understand what's going on, and then secondly, you can decide what action to take to respond to that need. So we have a little video here. I'm not quite sure how this will come across on the movie. If it doesn't come across very well, there's a little live link there that you can click on from the slideshow.
Hello, I'm Terry Deal.
Terry, it's great to see you. Great to be with you, even if we're 3,000 miles apart. You're in California and I'm in Boston, but I still feel connected and close, and it's great that we can both talk together.
We got together at Harvard University. I from a sociologist from Stanford, he a psychologist from Yale. Now, that's like a Buddhist and a Baptist asked to teach Sunday school together. And we didn't get along. We contradicted each other. We confused the students. That was the first year. The second year, Lee only had one thing to talk about, so we added the third. That was a political perspective. And we came up then with the idea that even though we were confusing students, we were actually opening them to new things that they could see around them. Because part of what a good leader has to do is to understand what's going on. And part of the problem with managers in today's world, they don't understand what's going on. And so they do things that they don't work out. And so what the frames do is they give you together, they give you a whole picture of what is going on. And that allows then you to come up with options. And so frames are, the idea of this is that believing is seeing, not seeing is believing. And so as you're able to look at an organization in multiple ways, it frees you to come up with options that really push you along on a successful kind of a pathway. And the frames that are liberating, because as you begin to see new things, you begin to see new options. And freedom is really the ability to have options and to look at things in new ways. And so we hope that you understand the confusion you're going through right now is exactly the kind of confusion that leads you to new ways of thinking and therefore new ways of succeeding. The organizations are very complex and confusing, and it leads you to new ways of becoming a much better leader.
You heard Terry talk about the idea of the frames, and the idea of having multiple frames enables you to understand more of what's going on, and that having options is one way of thinking about what freedom is. And what I want to do now is talk a little bit about each of the frames. In order to really get the frames, you want to know that each of them has a very coherent story. And that story, if you get the story and the ideas that are in that story, it'll be a lot easier to grasp the frame. So we've got 4 frames. The first is the structural frame. The structural frame looks at organizations as being factories or machines. They're production units. And in a production unit, you've got lots of different components or parts. And in order for the organization, the factory, to be productive, you need to have most of the parts in good working order. And you also have to have the relationships or the linkages among the different parts working right, so that most of the time the gears mesh instead of clash. If you look at leaders from a structural perspective, then the leader becomes both an analyst and an architect. The analyst's job is to collect the data you need in order to understand what's going on, and the architect's job is to design new ways of doing things, procedures, structures, systems, roles, whatever it is that you need in order to be able to do the job better. The human resource frame looks at organizations in a different way. Instead of thinking about them as machines or factories, the human resource frame says, well, what organizations really are is they're like extended families. And the extended family image tells us that a couple of things are really important. One is the quality of human relationships, the relationships people have with one another. If your experience of family is at all like my experience of family, you've noticed that when the relationships go well, family is a great place to be. When the relationships go bad, family can be terrible. Same thing is true at work. A couple of people who are powerful don't get along very well, and it messes up everything else for people in the organization. The other thing that the idea of family implies is some idea of reciprocity or mutuality in the relationship between the individual on the one hand and the system or the organization on the other. Does the organization provide individuals with the things that they think they need in order to feel satisfied and productive? If not, one or both is likely to suffer, either the organization or the people. The leader in this context is a catalyst who gives people the resources, enables people to do what they need to do, and also a servant who serves the best interests of the place and the people. Still, a third way to think about an organization, the political frame says, forget the machine, forget the family. What organizations really are is jungles. They're places rife with conflict, with different species that have very different interests and are continually in conflict with one another. And most of the important decisions that have to be made in an organization involve allocating scarce resources, who gets what. And the leader in that context then needs to be a warrior, an advocate, and a negotiator, someone who can go out and fight in behalf of his or her unit or department or whatever it is that you're trying to lead, and can be an effective advocate for the interests of your group, but also who can negotiate with other people who are out there on the same playing field. Finally, frame number 4 is the symbolic frame. And the symbolic frame says, well, organizations are really more like theaters and temples. That the theater image goes back at least to Shakespeare's Jaques and As You Like It, all the world's a stage and all the men and women really players. And one way to think about what's going on in organizations is that we're all both participants on stage And sometimes we're audience members in creating and acting out a variety of dramas. And those dramas give us meaning and an understanding of what's important and how we need to function in order to make things work. And the leader in this perspective is a prophet and a magician, someone who can help us understand the possibilities in the future and can make magic happen.
So, I always like the contrast between those two guys, one in his floral shirt, the other one in his very Oxford cloth button-down shirt. It kind of tells you a little bit about the kinds of characters that each of them are, but that's why they're a good team, because they each sort of they bring their strengths and their diversity together. So, the four-frame model. You will become intimately familiar with these by the end of the course. So, structural frame, the guiding metaphor is as a factory or a machine, right? Is that you can organize it like a factory, and if you organize it in the right way, you maximize efficiency of the organization. Very common way of looking at organizations, and that's where we'll start. The HR frame, as I have said in previous classes, I wish they would come up actually with a different name, because we quite often get that mixed up with the human resource departments in many organizations, which do perform a lot of these functions. But what this really refers to, it's really human relations more. That you're trying to create a cohesive group, a family type atmosphere where everybody feels that they have a sense of belonging. The political frame is the one that I think we most, when we get there in class, I think that's the one that has the most negative connotation, because that's what each of us have experienced most negatively in class or in organizations, and that's the jungle, because you never know, you can't see your way clearly, you never know what dangers are around the corner, and it can frankly be organizations can be very dangerous places. So that's why the political one is very important. Power obviously plays a huge role in that frame. The final frame is the symbolic frame, and this is he used the term theater, carnival, temple. This is where organizations strive for providing meaning, connecting their work to a higher purpose. This one usually gets it's seen as the least important initially, but as we go through the frames, I think you'll see how in some ways it's the most important, or at least it's the glue that connects the others together. So we will get to know these as you work through the course. So again, this is just another way of explaining the role of the leader. This is sort of a summary of what Bowman said, right? Leader is an advocate, right? Again, it's a power game. And I will stress that each of these, there's no value given to each of these. So in other words, the human resource frame is better than the political frame. They're all ways of looking at organizations that each have their value, and they can have a positive aspect or a negative aspect. So the political frame is very significant and very important in organizations. Our connotation with politics is mostly bad, and not just because of Donald Trump, but because of lots of reasons. We associate bad outcomes with politics, because we've probably all been bruised by politics at some point. But the political frame is absolutely necessary to be a good leader. So really what the task is to figure out what's going on, what are the main issues at play, and which frame do we look through, and then two, what do we do about it. So you will have frames that you are more inclined to do. Next week in class, we will do a little survey to see kind of what frames you feel most comfortable with. And so I think the goal there is to be aware and conscious of what these habits are, because if you will constantly look at things from, in this case, the symbolic political view, but you kind of ignore the structural and HR, you got to push out into those areas more, or at least have a way of making sure that those needs are being addressed. Oh, sorry, I can't go back. Can I go back? Okay, well, there was another video there that I guess we'll watch next week. So, reframing change, really how the frames are applied. This is in the application. There are things that the frames tell us what's getting in the way of change. That's what the barriers to change address. Then on the second row, what strategies are required. So frames are used for two purposes. One is to analyze what's going on, and two is to determine what action to take. What strategies do I need to take? So the way of thinking is, okay, I understand that there's a HR issue, right? People are feeling a great sense of uncertainty. COVID is a great example of really all of these. People were feeling a great sense of anxiety and uncertainty about what their jobs would look like and just about the general state of the world. And so people had to be given new skills, right? Teachers had to learn how to teach online courses. Students had to learn how to, participate in an online class. So that's an example of looking at an issue and then coming up with a strategy approach to refer to that issue, or that addresses that issue. So I'm going to have you do an activity here, or not right this second, but when you're done. We're almost done. There's an article here from our little local Castanet online news source. If you click on this link, and I'll make sure that that link appears on Moodle as well. If you click on that link, there's a story. So this is about what TRU has been going through, or has announced it's going through, like many universities in Canada, because of the declining enrollment of international students, people like you. Universities are having to reduce budgets, lay off teachers, and just reconsider how they're organizing the work and just how they're going to meet the budget shortfall. So the activity is to read the story about adjusting the workforce at TRU. So what I will ask you to do is to read that story on that website about the adjustments at the workforce at TRU, and think about what frames do you think are involved in this issue, and then I want you to use two of those frame guiding questions from on the next slide to analyze what's going on. We'll go over those in a minute. And then on the forum, there'll be two forums, one for your very short introduction, and then two, this is a little bit more substantial. I want you to choose two of those questions and then write a 150 to 200 word response to support why you chose those questions, and just why you think that those are representative of the leadership challenges going on according to the frames. Again, there's not one frame I'm looking for. There's a multiplicity of answers. It's more important that you are thoughtful in choosing what the frames are, and then justifying why you chose that frame, or providing examples of how you think the frames apply to the situation described in that article. Whoop. Oh, there we go. Sorry, I went through that. So so read that story, and try to understand, do some analysis as you're going through, using these questions, okay, to understand what's going on. right? So what are the structural issues, what are the political, what are the HR, and what are the symbolic? For the activity, I'm going to ask you to do two activities, pick two of these questions. Okay, so pick one question, say from political, and one from HR, to try to analyze what you think is going on in the university with this story. Okay, so is the case about, is it a hierarchy or chain of authority issue? Then it's going to be in a structural frame. Is that an HR issue, right? Is there a commitment, motivation, or capacity issue? Is it a symbolic issue? There's no one right answer that I'm looking for here. I want you to start to think, to analyze issues according to the frames, and then to spend some time thinking about identifying what the issues are. So in the Anderson article, it talks about how the frames were applied to a specific situation. I will be asking you to read this whole article for next class, and the in-class writing activity will be based on this article, so please read it. But as this quote says, reform efforts must also consider existing organizational structures before assuming that a reform effort will work as designed without adaptation. As this study demonstrates, the 4 organizational learning frames can serve as a comprehensive mental model for design of professional development and school change efforts. So that brings us to the end of our lesson, our course introduction lesson. So thank you for hanging in there. I will post this as a YouTube, so just a little hint, when it is posted as a YouTube, you can click on the speed and you can speed it up a little bit faster, so you can watch it a little bit less. It's about an hour in length, but you can maybe cut it down a few minutes anyway. So for next week, topic is becoming a multi-frame leader. I'd like you to read chapters 1 and 2 in the Bowman and Deal book, and those listed pages from the Anderson article, 369 to 373, 378 to 384, and we will use, or the Anderson article will be referred to in your in-class reaction paper, which we will write next week. Can't really do anything to prepare for that other than read the article and, just to do the readings this week, because it's just a reaction paper. Okay, great to meet you, and great to meet you in this way, and I'll look forward to meeting you in person next week. Have a great weekend.